Well, good grief. It looked like it's just the two of us, Mr. Everybody, welcome to hashtag Feed the Black. I am your host, Donna Alamonte Morris, here with Mr. O. Mr. O, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm uh I'm a little bit I'm a little bit stressed. I was talking to you earlier about, I
Look,
sent out the email
it,
about
it,
last minute stuff on my
it,
end.
it it is, look, I had to woke up very early. I had to lecture 4 hours in the university. And later after that, I felt tired the whole day. So,
Do you got the wine out? Because I got my Coca Cola. So
I got a black beer.
why you got? See, you are just bringing out the. You know what, Mr. O, we go. We're just going to go into our opening statements and obviously until everybody else come on in. Um, we're going to jump in the show. Look like it's just going to be the two man show. So here we go. Once I get my caption.
Um, with all the problems that we are seeing all over the world, and each of us have to find a place for ourselves. I was thinking about it, and I'm reminded about the cosmology of the Yoruba people as regard Ori the head. They believe that before coming to the world, we existed in the spiritual sphere. And when we are about to come to the world, we go to a portal that makes heads, and we choose the head we want, and with that we come to the world. And that head is the one that leads us into both troubles and also safeties. In fact, they are saying that what happened to us in the world is because of the head we brought to the world. So there are priests that are able to even uh, guide somebody even before the child is born, so that when he lands, the child lands well with good feet. Um, Looking at it, how is it that some people have so much trouble and some don't know? Today in newspapers in Nigeria show the picture of a girl from my tribe that went to the US and has just been promoted as second lieutenant in the US Army. See, she came to the world with a very good head. Had she remained in Nigeria, maybe she would have been nobody. So everybody, where so in Yoruba we pray for our head because we believe that this is where God starts up, and this is where we start down, and it's from here we are able to receive the blessing of God. That is why we bow our head when we pray. I pray that in this very trying moment of the planet, God forgive us all our sins and prevent a possible Armageddon that we see coming very near. That is my opening statement.
First of all, finally, my other two members on the show came in. Yes, I'm gonna have to dime y'all out. Y'all here, so I just want to start my opening statement with that. But my opening statement is the Alamonte show is back. I finally got going back to my podcasting. I just can't keep putting the Alamonte show on hold. I gotta continue doing it. And unfortunately, my premiere show was me, setting one of my battle buddies straight. The show was titled Stuck on Stupid, and I tagged him in it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I keep 100 on this show. When I'm wrong, I will come on here and admit that I'm wrong. But if I'm right, I'm going to stand by it. Even if people go against me with it. But this guy, I want to say this guy, my battle buddy, who I served with, I consider him a great friend. He got a different view on Black Lives Matter, and he said a lot of very derogatory things that disappointed me. But also in my podcast, and I send it to anybody else, because I'm still gonna have segments when I see people who put stupid posts. I'm gonna call you out on the show. It's gonna be called the segment "Take Your Foot Out Your Mouth." But we can't have a conversation offline on the side and be like, "Hey man, let's talk." Let's go ahead and talk. Does this have anything to do with the way Cuomo runs this city? Well, this also my other battle bite. No, just have a seat, Mr. Anthony. This show, welcome to our world. That's all I gotta say. But he did reach out to me, but also in the show, I told him, I said, when you hear my podcast, it's not me saying it out of hate or being derogatory to you. I'm saying it out of disappointment with the truth. I told him that because he reached out to me. He's like, man, we knew each other for a long time. Let's go ahead and talk. I said, yeah, man, let's talk. And I send that to anybody. Yes, we have a difference of views, but I still say when you got impressionable minds out there that don't do the research or look at alternative facts out there, this is why the country is where it is we have people that's listening to these facts or don't understand that the sources that they're getting it from is incorrect and not factually true. We get things what is happening right now. But if we cool, or even if I barely even know you and you want to have a conversation offline, let's do that. I have no problem, no issue that we could come to a middle ground and come to an understanding. And I think that is what is missing in this world today. But make sure when you say anything without no factual proof, just because you get a YouTube video trying to prove your point and it's not the full video of all the evidence, or get something off the internet or an article like, hey, this is what this site says, and find out that freaking site is not a reliable source. Don't tell me that I'm wrong. Don't try to combat that with your point. Don't try to combat that with my truth to your facts, because truth never changes. The facts do. But we can still have that conversation and still reach an understanding, maybe even a friendship. But this is to people that I barely even know. But to my battle buddies, because my battle buddies are being exposed on my freaking Facebook pages, and it's just opened my eyes, and I'm just like, wow. But if you want to have that conversation on the side, I'm cool with that. And that's my opening statements. Sleepaway, finally welcome to the show.
Hey, I got here. I got the link. I got here. My opening statement is simply for people to invest more time and energy into really learning history and learn the valuable lessons from history so that we don't continue to repeat the same mistakes. That's my opening statement.
Welcome to the show, Beast Johnson.
Welcome. Before I begin, I just want to get something off my chest. I dedicate this next shot to the faithful fan on my Facebook that loves watching me and reporting me and getting me banned. Thank you for being a pestering little bitch. I would greatly appreciate it if you show your face so that I could personally thank you. Understand there's no violence or anger in my heart whatsoever towards you. You're ignorant, insecure, sniveling little shit who feels as though I am in a position to have my personal thoughts hold weight. And for that, I thank you. I didn't realize I was that popular. I didn't realize I had that much clout. I didn't realize I was doing that much right in the world to where you hating on me like that. So I will definitely enjoy these podcasts because this will be the only time people will be able to see me on Facebook for the next 3 months. Thank you. So my opening statement is persevere. No matter what, use what you have. Use every bit of your fucking essence to get your message out there. And trust and believe there's going to be people that think that they're going to block you, that think they're going to ban you. But if anyone that personally knows me or spend more than 15 minutes around me will tell you that I have a very loud and projective-like voice. I don't need a microphone for you niggas to hear me. So if you think stopping me on Facebook is going to stop the message, you're sadly mistaken. There are other avenues which link to Facebook. I still get my message across, you dumb fuck. You're not smart. But that's what grinds my gears. I just want to get that off my chest. Let's enjoy this wonderful show. Y'all have a good one.
And we're all here.
Yes.
Me and Mr. O was like, I looked like it's just a two-man show today. But y'all came in at the nick of time, and we all
you know we had to come in like JT and Eddie.
yeah.
And since we all here, I got to do it right. Imani Wado.
Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Hashtag Fade to Black. Once again, Beast Johnson, Seepway, we all are here. So here's the thing. What's going on? We've been doing segments on the show. Usually on a Monday, Mr. O would give us the lowdown on we got Keith, he's in on it too, as you can see. we will be talking about, you know, he would give us a trip through Africa, of the cultures, of the food, of the tribes, of, you know, history that we should be knowing about. And then Wednesdays is Beast Johnson. He will be telling us about the music game, you know, the ins and outs of staying and being independent, not get those 360 deals, and giving his opinion. I won't say opinion, giving his views on the music industry today. And then on Fridays, Teach will be giving us the African arts and the African cultures. But we cannot keep doing it with these two cases that just happened in California and what happened in New York. And it seems like every time we get like 10 paces up, 10 paces ahead, things like this just knock us back 20 paces. And first, I just want to open the floor. Have any of y'all heard of these cases that just happened in either Los Angeles, New York, or both?
I've heard of them, but I haven't heard any actual details as of yet.
Yeah. What about you, Sipo?
I don't know the details, but I said on the last show, I said last week it was my family. Next week is going to be another family.
And sad that was prophetic, but we as black folk know that shit's true.
It's a systemic problem. Justin, who was on the show, he told Don Lemon the other night on CNN, he said, look, if it was the case of just one bad apple in the bunch, why are black families all across the country having to talk to their children, having to worry about this? If it was just one bad apple in the bunch, it's a systemic problem. And I don't know the details of what happened, maybe about it. But the conversation eventually is going to turn from the details of what happened to who has the solution.
I'm sorry. Whoever. That's Mr. O. I'm sorry, Mr. O. I'm gonna put you on mute real quick. Hold up, real quick. All right. Go ahead. What you were saying.
Yeah, I was just saying. Once we learn the details, again, in another case, ultimately the conversation has to go to who has the solution.
Right. What about you, Mr. O?
Well, just few minutes ago, I saw, because Facebook has changed its structure. Now in the middle, one is fed with some current events. What maybe is what I saw in California, in Los Angeles, where I saw the police rain bullets on the Black Lives Matter and other groups that were protesting. It was as if it was a battlefield. I don't know whether that is what you're talking about. I saw that a few minutes ago. I was so surprised that the police will open bullets in such a way, because the people I saw, I did not see them armed. I'm not a supporter of Black Lives Matter, but I must stand on the truth. The images I saw, I did not see them violent. They were protesting and the police opened bullets on them. I was surprised that that happened in Los Angeles, a Democratic household, which I thought were more sympathetic with with all the protests going on in the country, including the riots. So I don't know. What I'm suspecting that there are some powerful people that want to produce some change in the US. Yeah. And I'm sorry that they're using Black people as sacrifice lambs for them to get to power. This is my suspicion. It's not possible that Black people are also always being murdered. And also, I have my great criticism to the Black leaders, that after all these years, this is a proof that once their pocket is filled, then they become, they belong to the powerful again and have abandoned the people. For me to end, yesterday I saw a video from my tribe of women singing gospel songs, but filled with the image of Exodus. And the images we show in Hollywood of Exodus, of the Red Sea opening, that's not the thing, but what they represented, a leader like Moses. You see, water here, water here. He went forward and the people faithfully followed him. And I saw what leadership means. And I shake my head. See, you need to look at the image again, the great leader. You see the leader, after the Red Sea was opened, he entered, enemies behind, and he entered. And the people did not look whether right or left. They look at the leader. And the leader was so powerful spiritually, and he crossed and he led these people to to safety. We need leaders in the Black community.
Yeah.
That
What about you,
No,
Bishop?
I will agree, but I do not put all my faith in the one singular individual that is supposed to have, because the whole point, the perverted perception of a leader is someone who knows more than everyone else. No, a leader is just someone that is smart enough to take everyone's into consideration and everyone's ideas into consideration and move forward with a plan that everyone can get it behind. That's all a leader really is. They're devising an idea that they themselves can accomplish, and with everyone's help, they know it can truly get accomplished. And if they're willing to put forth the effort too, that's what it is. But the real issue we have, I can sum it up in one word, is complacency. The reason why you see this continue to happen, hello there, is that we get to these moments, something happens. We have a tragedy. We get angry. We protest. We speak out. And then as soon as a close relative of a victim starts preaching peace, we start to get comfortable and complacent and want to start saying things about going back to normal. And once you start using that rhetoric, that's also code for those races to go back to doing what they was doing. So you see it flare up again. And like Brother Blake said, next week it'll be somebody else's family. We're here next week and it's somebody else's family. I attribute it to like selling dope. The reason why folks get caught when they out here selling dope is because you get complacent. When you get complacent, you get comfortable. When you get comfortable, you get careless. Once you're careless, you get caught up. And using that analogy for real life, after you get caught up, you get killed.
Right.
So we cannot be complacent.
Yeah. So I want to get it geared to why is now going with where everybody have been saying on this show, not even for just this show, but previous shows before this. Why does it seem like it's getting normalized? Like, just another family. Like Super Wade was saying, 1 week is my family, then the next minute is somebody else's family, then the next week is this next family.
It's desensitizing. I'm a horror fan. I grew up loving horror movies, and I grew up in the 80s. So I as a kid, I got to watch all the really viscerally gory, bloody horror movies of the 80s. Anybody that watched and indulged in 80s horror is desensitized now to major acts of violence. I've seen people being hit by a car, and it doesn't really faze me other than the point of, oh shit, I hope they're not dead. But the actual visual of seeing a human body being inflicted upon with that type of damage, it doesn't bother me to the extent that it will bother a normal person, because I've been desensitized over the years. And what helps me is I have a strong mind. So I still have common sense, and I still know who the fuck I am at the end of the day. But for the weaker-minded individuals that fall under this desensibilization, they end up indulging in those things because they lose their anchor to reality.
Right. What you got to add, Mr. O?
No. Look, I repeat the same thing I said. This is time for us to question the Black leadership. Nothing happens to them. It is time we question them.
What about you, Super Way?
What question would you ask them, Professor? Questioning the black leadership?
Yes, they have failed. They have failed.
We've been questioning the black leadership. The problem is that we're not analyzing this thing systematically like engineers. And as a result, you're not giving instructions and alternatives. The problem is that something happens in our community. The police either get called or show up, and then there is the police violence against members of our community. So there's an input, a process, and an output. Right now, we started questioning black leadership in the 1972s, Professor O. We had many gatherings, conferences. If you want, you can go online, go to YouTube and Google Tony Brown's journal. You will see when they had quote unquote black leaders, men and women from all fields, just like you were talking about last week. They were leaders of organizations and professors, and they would come together and they discussed these problems. They even had in 1972, they said, is it too late? Meaning, is it too late for black people in America? If we get to this problem with the inputs, processes, and outputs, okay, something happens in our community. If we want change, we have to say what the change is. So from the time something happens in a community and the time that either somebody calls the police or the police show up, what can we do to create change in the system? Where is the black 911? So instead of calling the police, we're calling our community responders or our community protection force. So, and when we say the word black leaders, to me, a black leader is someone right now who is or has the capacity in a given territory or city. A leader is someone who has the capacity to motivate, inspire, and organize those black people who have legal guns, police training, military training, combat training, that have already been trained, security guard training. To me, a black leader today is someone who in a given city has the ability to bring those people together and organize them in shifts in the same way that the police do, and can make it known in their city that if you have a problem, instead of calling 911, you call Black 11. And when that group shows up, if the police show up, they're going to behave in a different way. That's how that's one real solution, right, to the problem. Because if they see an organized, disciplined force that has the same force of arms as the police force, they're not just going to be willy-nilly shooting people.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead. Let me try to bring what Mr. O is saying and what you're saying, Sipaway, together. So let's talk about the black leaders. So when I hear black leaders, I hear the mover and the shaker. They have the power to change things. But when these meetings happen, at what you was talking about, Sipaway, when they are sitting there with the community and the community is sitting there saying, we having these problems, we need something to get done. And they're like saying, we hear you, we hear you, we hear you, and nothing happens. Do you think, I'm sorry, I got to put on my conspiracy hat. Mr. O, give me the black hat. Let me put it on. Because I don't like to bring up conspiracies, but let me go in ahead. Do you think that they got handlers that they basically answer to and be like, hey, you know,
yes,
this is what happened in our community. Can we get any help? So I'll throw that on the floor. This also for the audience. If you want to intervene in the conversation, go ahead and put your comments.
I agree. Yes, it is. Before you begin, Mr. O, I agree with this point because it goes back to a point that I made last week when referencing the token black. And I use, for example, Dr. King could be considered as a token black because he had to, quote unquote, play the game. He was also considered as a black leader, but he was right up in here at these fancy dinner parties and these, quote unquote, meetings of the mind with these well-endowed financial philanthropists who were a lot of times white. And he taught that game and did that dance, quote unquote, and got that money that he needed to fund the movement and get us to where we are now. So it's
a dynamic
slippery slope.
It's a dynamic answer.
It is. I agree. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's a dynamic answer.
Have handlers. Some of them, yes, they do. Some of them don't have handlers. What they have is programming, meaning they have been trained and raised and socialized into a system that gives them a set of values and ideas that always produces a certain kind of behavior. With those people, right, it's not a direct conscious handling, it's an indirect handling that was the result of years of indoctrination. But what's common amongst all of them is none of them have any power. And so this is what I meant by in my conversation. The leader is the person who knows they have no other power other than ability to get people to work together under a common set of instructions for a specific end. No black people in America have any power whatsoever. No, there's no leader with any power. But if you can get someone, I saw once there was a comment on the screen. It said, who's going to sign up for that alternative police force, the community development, right? Who's going to sign up for that? What I'm saying is, not everybody is a soldier. Not everybody is a scholar. Not everybody is a nurse. What I'm saying is we already have soldiers, trained police officers, and security guards in our community. They're already trained in doing that. Where is the person in each city that has the ability to motivate and inspire them and say, okay, we're going to organize it this way, and here's how it's going to work. So if we have someone that has the capacity to be a police chief and organize a police force in a city, why don't we have someone with the same set of tools and capacities to organize the community force? And so that goes to your question, Donnell, do they have handlers? Why aren't the black police chiefs resigning from that and organizing our own? That comes to a certain mentality. Why are we still thinking that inclusion in being part of the system is the way to go, instead of saying, you know what, tried that, we're done with that. The best thing I can do right now is remove myself from that and work on building something that we can control. And then the reason why that doesn't happen is because then it goes back to the basic question, how am I going to feed my family? If I quit my job as the police commander, who's going to pay my bills so that I can feed my family? We are all economic wage slaves because we own no land and we can't feed ourselves. And we aren't willing to sacrifice what it takes to have control of our own institutions.
Okay, Mr. O, what's your take? I'm sorry, sip away. Go ahead, Mr. O.
I'm just brief, I'll be just long. The leadership that must be changed. In many of those communities, our communities, both mayor and district attorneys are blacks. Vote them out. If not, nothing will change.
I'm gonna go ahead and kind of rebuke that, Mr. O, because majority of the of the attorneys are not black. Some of them are getting into positions.
Where there's crisis, I'm pointing to where there's crisis, like Chicago, like Atlanta, many blacks are in the position. If you vote them, if nothing changes, vote them out.
I mean, not majority of them. Not majority of them. Chicago.
Yeah, let me jump in on that one too. Just because they might happen to have one at that time does not relegate that person the obligation. Well, no, it's not. It's important, but it's not that important. Just because if folk been shooting in my city for 20 years and 12 years in, I'm now in charge, or I'm in that position, you know, you can't fault me for everything that happened up until then. You can only fault me for what I do moving forward. So just because there's currently or at the moments of these great issues or that you speak of a black individual in that law position doesn't relegate that person to have to be forced to do that. And if it doesn't get solved, it's automatically their fault. They came into that and they're doing the best they can to alleviate that. You know, that's like coming into the surgery as a first day nurse with a first aid kit, and this man got a leg split open. You don't know what you're doing, but you're going to do the best you can while you're there till somebody else can come in and help you, or somebody better quickly take over. So you can't fault them on that. And say just because they're there and they didn't do it, they need to be replaced. If they're in the midst of it, you got to give them that chance.
That very paradigm is way off the mark. If we're talking about changing the behavior of communities, people in the communities are not impressed, motivated, controlled by mayors and attorneys and that is not how you're going to change the behavior of 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds on the street who may be shooting each other, right? That's not how you're going to change the behavior of a family that's suffering economic hardship. They have no money, they're under financial pressure, and then there's what we call domestic issues in our communities. Those kinds of problems and behaviors are not going to be solved by voting out a certain mayor and voting in a new mayor. That's not the leadership we need to be talking about right now. We need to be talking about people who can actually influence the behavior of the members of our community. Mm-hmm. Those are not elected officials.
I'm gonna have to push back on that, Seepaway. I mean, we have to, voting has to be a part of this conversation, because I do agree with Mr. O on, yes, we do have to vote them out. And once we get, but once we get that foundation of people like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this system, let's go ahead and create our own.
Yeah. That's the vote we need. We need a Brexit. That's what we as Americans need. We need to have a vote, a unilateral vote that says we are going to reset this entire government, and everybody in power would no longer be in power. What assets you have accrued up until that point, you will be able to keep. Any assets that you would be potentially make after that point are null and void, and that money will go back to the restructuring of the American government.
Yeah,
that's what we need to do. I'm gonna keep saying we need a reset, but as we speak of voting, that's the vote we need to have. We need to have our own Brexit. We need to all agree. If everybody's complaining and we're also saying the importance of voting, then we need to petition. Because if the people bring a petition, we can bring it forth. And hey, we always put the old school American Revolution term of, we have no problem going to war for it.
Yeah,
We will follow the footsteps of our forefathers if necessary.
And so everybody, and one thing, like I said, we take different avenues to the solutions. We all in agreement. We're all in agreement. Mr. O is correct when he's saying that, yes, vote their asses out. If they're not doing the will of the people of that community, vote your ass out.
And replace them with what? With who? What if there's nobody? This is what I'm saying. What if, and I'm not saying, this is actually my opinion. If you take somebody out, you got to put somebody in.
Yeah, and see, that's why I'm going to your point. That's why I'm going to your point. Yeah, and that's why I'm going to your point.
You vote someone else who has offer. When they're campaigning.
Not who has the offer. No, we're not going by campaigns. We're not going by that because that's a popularity contest. That's all lip service. That's the dating game. This is why I'm choosing Bachelor 1 over Bachelor 3. That's all that is. So no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're going off what you do, and you have to physically prove something to America before you consider.
Right, so
there has to be a leader in the community that stands up. There has to be a leader that some people can follow. It is needed, even in small tiny communities.
Professor, a lot of those people are not going to be running for office. Is what I'm saying.
Thank you. I was about to go to that point.
Those people are not.
I agree with you.
But
they can still be leaders in the community without. They can be people of influence, but there has to be a leader that can share the light.
When you say a leader in the community, you need to expand your horizon on that thought. A leader in the community is not just the quote unquote person that speaks for the community. It could be the person in the community that is willing to step forward and do the necessary work. So when you say a leader in the community, understand that you're not necessarily speaking of your quote unquote Al Sharptons or your Jesse Jacksons. You could easily just be speaking of a no-name individual like one of us that has just as much passion, but has more sincere follow through. And that is a leader that can come from the community.
Right, and see,
that's to Mr. Seaway. Go ahead, down there.
Yeah, but see, that's what. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
If you study history, you will see that the people that Beast Johnson are speaking of were community leaders who had the passion and who had the right frame of mind and were willing to get into electoral politics, went in and came back and told us that is a dead end because they have no power in those situations.
Yeah, and that's what I was doing. I was bringing everybody's points all together because what you're saying is actually true too. We do need to have our own community, have our own politics, have our own codes. I've been saying that for the longest. I say we need a fucking super PAC. And then the idea that you came up with on the last show about 46 million of us, even though I think is more, I think black people are the majority, but we need to have a super PAC to the point of if we don't get what we want, we're not coming out to vote for nobody.
That is another way.
Right.
That is it. Absent.
Yes.
Sit home.
Yes.
I mean, we're doing that right now.
Yeah. And I'm bringing all the points together because yes, voting is important, but also we need to get what black people need. We need this, we need that, we need to stop being over police, we need to get these drugs out the freaking community, we need to have more money for programs for us. We should not get these micro loans, we should get regular damn business loans.
Now
that's what I've been saying
y'all
for a long
speak of
time.
this?
And saying what Steepaway says. Steepaway is going like deeper into it of like, you know what? Let's all come together. Let's all do our own community thing. Let's stay on code. when one of ours get pulled over in our community, it should be 5 of us with guns, legally registered, watching to see that the cops are actually doing what they need to do, or at least talk to whoever is the governor or who's ever running that head of that militia to be like, hey, please explain to me what's going on before it goes any further, because we don't want the news to manipulate it and all that stuff. But go ahead, Beast.
I agree with everything you're saying. Everyone is dead set correct. We need to add, I go back to my point of replacement. When you talk about we should have our own communities, we should be allowed to do what the other races do, but we should allow it on a grander scale. So saying that we're gonna restructure the government and say everyone votes to restructure. Now this is how we're going to restructure. Number one, it will be a assembly of the people. So we will have everyone there who is able to personally speak from a perspective of a demographic within the American borders.
Yeah.
No matter your political knowledge, it is your personal leadership qualities that have put you forth in this position and allowed you this opportunity to speak the truth that has been resonated from not just you, but from those like you and those with similar ailments and issues. Now go to the people. We should all be allowed to have a government, a quote unquote race government, if you will. Everyone has their own communities, which they have do like the reservations do. When you own this land, when you in this community, it's our law. You go where we tell you to go. The feds can go to an Indian reservation, but they still got to meet up with the local law enforcement. They just can't pop up there all willy-nilly like they do everywhere else. They got to do it due process. We need to establish that across the board. Now, see, I say across the board because going back to what T said about us being the forerunners, I use that analogy as being the older siblings, the elders. We know what we stand, what we get, and what we demand is going to trickle down and affect the ones below us. So we could be a dick and just worry about us and knowing good and well that the rest of them going to catch hell. But we can make sure that we get what we need and everybody is taken care of. And as long as everybody's taken care of, we know we got a better shot of getting what we need. So you establish this front for the blacks, but this is established and structured for all the races and all the race communities. So the Jews will be able to establish this, the Asians will be able to establish this, the Muslims and the Shiites and all those of the Arabic nations will be able to have their own little structure within themselves to work with each other because they're close by. And to alleviate that, but everyone will be able to handle their own business within their own community. And when necessary for actual law enforcement to be there, they will be there. But if the law enforcement gets a call, it's secondhand. You get in the call like the SWAT team.
Right.
The first people to get called are your delegates. For the black community, it's your black 111. They're the first person you call. Even if you call 911, it should be redirected back to black 111.
Right. I mean, it also goes back to Black Wall Street, but the solutions that we're saying right now is what they should have had in place.
Now, but the issue is with that, the issue is with that is we have to acknowledge and establish and almost do a treaty of Versailles, if you will. But we need to get on paper that moving forward, blacks will work together, blacks will work within each other, and we will draw away from the white capitalist movement and build our own black capitalist movement. Now, understand, as we build this, we are not doing this in some seedy side-handed, long con game to take y'all over. We doing this to balance out the system and be able to survive along with what's going on right now. We're not going to do what y'all did to us. And we get that on paper and we get that acknowledged. Because that's the biggest fear that they have for us. They fucked us over so much that they know they feel like if we're given the opportunity to even get on par with them, we're gonna fuck them over the first chance we get.
Right. But like what I was saying about the Black Wall Street, which I said and BC also mentioned in the show, they got comfortable, they got lax. But they had all the solutions that we're coming up with now. Who knows? Black Wall Street will still be standing right now. But going back to what Seepaway was saying, that is more needed than anything today. We do need our own militia, like with the what's not fucking around coalition. That right there.
What's the armed coalition going on right now? We spoke about it earlier. I can't think of the name of it.
Not fucking around coalition?
That's them.
Yeah, that's the one with Grandmaster Jay.
Yeah, that's. Now I'm talking about the one that has all the registered gun owners. They were the ones that was doing the marches. That's the NFA.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Then that we should take that and use that and build from there.
Yeah, and that's the point I was about to come on. Yeah, say because imagine if I call them chocolate cities. I'm being for real. Like let's be clear. If every chocolate city, let's use Atlanta for example, had a militia like that, Atlanta would be probably even more prosperous, even way better than it is now. Economy would be a lot better.
Okay. Boris.
Everybody talk about Chirac. It wouldn't be no Chirac.
Okay.
Because a system like that institutes the big mama policy and mentality. So you would have the elders that would, if they sense something was going on, they'd be like Craig Daddy. They speak on it. They give you that talk. And shoot, they'll probably go ahead and let one of their local members know, hey, this is a situation that might come up, just to let y'all know. Be on the lookout, keep an eye out. Thus,
but go ahead.
Further notifying that. But go ahead, bro.
Okay, so let me ask you, right? Do you know about Max Stanford and the Revolutionary Action Movement, 1962? Do you know how?
No, sir.
Okay, so that was the first unit in the 60s that started to do what we talked about. The brother Max Stanford was discussing these things with Malcolm X at the time. Okay? And they worked out an entire program for everything that we were talking about and implemented it and started calling for these very militias that we're talking about now. This was 1962. It went through various iterations in 64 and 65, and again from 68 to 71, and from 71 to 75. Okay? And so what I'm saying is, this goes back to my opening statement. We have people talking about this and claiming to be leaders and actually thinking they have something to offer. They have never analyzed what they did and why it failed. So as a result, they're recreating the real. And this is what I'm saying. If you don't study history, you're going to go down dead ends and waste a lot of times. Everything we're talking about now, we tried to do from 62 to 75. And there were reasons why sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't work. And if you don't know the conditions that were at that time and why it failed then, and you haven't analyzed how those conditions have changed and what's new and different now, and how it can be tweaked, how the system can be tweaked now, then you have people that really are not our leaders in scientific thinking about what needs to be done now. Back then, one of the conditions that was different is the average black person, family, did not own a gun. Today, you see even well-to-do middle-class black families posting their pictures with guns on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay? So one of the conditions that changed from 60s and 70s till now is
Jason, I agree with him. I agree with
that
Jason.
we have a lot more of our people that are armed. Second of all, when the militias were formed in the 60s and 70s, the consciousness of the people was different. We had just got Brown versus Board of Education decision in 56. A lot of black people were being bombarded with this message that educational opportunities were going to lead to a better life in America. So there was an optimism and a belief in the American dream that prevented the majority of black people from supporting the militias. The militias were considered to be extreme fringe elements that were considered to be violently radical, and the vast majority of black people, working class black people, that were just trying to make a living, right? We're not consciously able to understand the need for the militia. That has changed. We turned a corner with George Floyd. We saw with George Floyd's death, across the board, black people, it didn't matter if you were the most pussyfooting, conservative, black Republican, sellout, pacifist. Even he was fed up and was like, that's it, I've had enough. So conditions have changed. We have two new variables in the equation. We have a majority black population that is fed up and is better armed. Okay? That's it. It's the consciousness has changed and we're better armed. So we need to make the attempt, like NFAC. And the thing is, instead of it coming from the quote unquote revolutionary black radicals, this time it has to come from the established black middle class. The people who what? Have the registered firearms, have the training, have security companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said we have to use what we have already. Okay? So we have the right people already, but what we don't have is the right, leader like Professor O is saying, standing up, has the ability in a chocolate city like Cincinnati to stand up and say, okay, we're having a meeting of all licensed gun owners and black gun owners in a city, right? Anyone with 5 to 10 years of military or police training, right, are going to be called to a special command meeting. We don't have anybody going forth with that kind of, nobody voted me in this position because I know how to do. It is my responsibility to simply assume the responsibility and make it happen. Now, if you study history, you're going to find out, for example, when Martin Luther King was assassinated in Chicago, the leadership in Chicago turned to the street elements like Jeff Fort. Jeff Fort had the power to say, look, you business owners, if you put our signs in your windows, we're not burning you down. That's called community control. So they had to negotiate with the street leaders because they were the ones that had the power in those communities to say yay or nay, right? If you're with us, we're not burning you down. That's control. We have to find those people. We have communities already. And in order to establish community control, we don't get that from outside. We get that from inside. But we're not having those conversations. We're still talking about voting in local elections and things like that. Instead of saying, okay, look, here's what we're going to do, tactical maneuver. We're going to go burn down this property over here. And then we're going to say, look, if you don't want that stuff to happen, right, here's our demands. And it has to be the people that they know have that kind of control. That if they say move and go burn that down, they're going to do it. And if they say no, don't burn that down, they're not going to do it. So if our communities don't get to that level, we're just talking. I even heard B say, you know, we have to be allowed. We're not going to be allowed. If you want to have a black exit, a Blexit, if you want to have that, the most powerful political statement we could make today is nobody vote in the election.
I said it.
Yes,
I said it myself.
Whole world, we no longer submit to being governed by this system. We are not participating in it. We don't recognize it. That's not going to
second it.
But that's going to put us on the path to the next phase, which is people have to now start looking at us as these are the descendants of displaced, trafficked people who have an ambiguous status in the international legal community. They don't have a nation. They don't have their own government. There are colonized people living in the land of their captivity. We got to be honest about that.
I'm gonna be honest with you, brother.
Our new channels are going to open up for us. Are we there yet? No, because we have too many people going around talking about vote blue, got to vote Trump out of office. Whatever you do, vote blue, vote. Subscribe for vote. We have too many people counter-programming us down the wrong path.
Okay, but here's my question. Now I'm gonna let Mr. O step in. Goes back to what you said when I made my points. Then what? Then what do we have? We have to have something in place. We just can't be like, we're not going to vote
yes,
because of this. But I mean,
it's going to have something. You're not going to have something ready-made in place.
Yeah,
we're going to have to go through a period, just like the American revolutionaries did. They didn't have something in place.
But here's the thing,
British government give them territory.
But here's the thing,
what 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of Congress?
Yeah, I understand that. But here's the thing, though. But then we can't complain when we don't vote, and then the same thing continue to happen.
Hold on. Now, when he says don't vote, I got you, Mr. Vote.
You can't complain because when you vote, you're saying, I accept the House rules. So when I vote, whether my candidate wins or loses, I've now given my power over to the system, which says majority or electoral, whoever they put into office has legitimate power to make decisions. And if they make decisions you don't like, you can complain if you want, but they're not going to do anything about it. But if you don't submit to that system and you don't give your power to it, you're in a better position to complain because you can say, but
hold on. Now, Danielle, when he's saying this, he's saying it from the black perspective. But what he truly means, because I agree with him, but I agree that this is a movement that must be taken by all Americans, because this system is so corrupt, this system is so degraded and messed up, and that the only way to truly showcase how messed up it is if every American, not just black Americans, but if every single American did not vote in this election, I can guarantee you that somebody will still win. Only showcasing how corrupt this fucking system is and fueling it. Now, where everything he's saying is 100% correct.
Yeah,
as far as leadership goes, like the type of leadership we need is we've actually run across that leadership. We're just not willing to accept it. It's that Black Dynamite, be cool, John Travolta, Shylock type of leadership. It's somebody that is dirty enough to know how to go about getting things, but clean enough to be approached and approach is like, hey, you see them, they don't look like the type of person that they kind of give you that vibe, but they don't come off that way. but they still say everything with the intent of, if our demands aren't met, we'll fucking go to war. But they don't say that.
Yeah, but here's my thing. I'm not saying what both you and Sleepaway is saying is wrong. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, it's not even a backup plan. It has to be a foundation. It should be something already in play. It's great that we can say that, hey, we don't need to vote at all. We all need to, like, once again, we all need to get together with like-minded people. If we already have the people, already have the numbers, or at least we don't have to have all 46 million or even more than that black people. We could just have 10 million and we can be like, okay, we're not going to vote. That's all I'm saying. We just can't fall back with nobody to hold us. You know, nobody ain't gonna hold you. Nobody ain't gonna hold you if nobody's there. But let's let Mr. O step on in. So, Mr. O, what do you have to say on this? Because I agree with you about the voting part.
You see, I'm an engineer, and we are trying to provide solutions. Let me take you away from the approach you are saying now. I have been told that there's a lot of violence in our community. If that is so, let us find out why there's so much violence, and then we can bring ideas on how to tackle the problem and start from the grassroots to bring up new generation that will not be violent. That is the approach I have, not the massive revolution of guns and those, where a lot of innocent people fall and some very smart people will survive and continue to make money. Look, what is the problem in our community? Let us see how we can work on that.
Professor, you don't know what the problem is still?
No, I don't see. If they have been working on it, then there will be no problem today. It means they have failed. Let there be a new approach. Let us see the problem. What is the problem in our community? Why is there so much violence?
I mean, we've already established what the
we've been talking about this on the show. We've been talking about this on the show. Yeah,
that's more than established on paper. Statistically, analytically, we've established that. So there's no more point in asking that.
No, I ask because I'm not yet convinced. We have to tackle the problem from the root.
You've done that already.
Once again, sir. Statistically, analytically, socially, psychologically, we've established that problem. We've had the whites establish that problem. We put it on paper and established that problem. So that problem has been established at least threefold within America. So what we're doing right now by stating that there is a problem and what the problem is we're going around in the merry-go-round on that. So it's like, we know the problem.
Yeah, Mr. Hall, I'm about to give you the black hat. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Hall.
None of you is qualified to tell me the problem in the community. I'm saying it plain. I say my feelings.
Hold on. I'm gonna let her finish.
You are not convincing. All you do is complain of bitterness. You are not telling me the problems. You are all annoyed, and from annoyance you can never clarify anything. Bring me an anthropologist, I told you. Bring me a sociologist. Let them tell me scientifically what is wrong with our people. Not you bunch of complainers.
Mr. O. Stop.
Hold on.
No. Let me step in before everybody break off in chaos. Mr. O.
I ain't gonna be no chaos.
Mr. O. I said this on the show. I don't know how subtle everybody else is going to be, but I'm going to have to be subtle because I'm the host. But look, history is your best teacher. We don't need no professional to tell us what we're going through here in America. This has been happening not for years, not for decades, but since our ancestors first put their foot on this land. Just because a few black folks that look like us succeeded, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, rest his soul, even Bubba Wallace, who name a few NASCAR drivers that made it in the sport. You cannot judge that and generalize that as, well, other black folks are complaining. Now, to your point of complaining and crybabies, that's when I go to the vote. But you know what? We already discussed that. So I'm going to push that to the side. You still got people out there catching hell where your own name and how you sound determines if you get the job or not, or if you get that loan or not. If you want your business to succeed, you got people in the hood. Like I was just watching the No Limit documentary last night, and how people who are literally trying to make it out there are not giving the resources or getting the right funding for their schools to get that education. Or in the South, we say education. That are trying. But not everybody's going to get that scholarship. Why you think so many black people are going for sports scholarships, like football, like freaking, it used to be baseball, because back in the day, baseball was our NBA, that was our football. I'm talking about Jackie Robinson, Hank Aaron. Now it's the NBA or football. Why you think they want to go to the freaking not major leagues, but go to places like Alabama or go to Virginia Tech? These are things, Mr. O, you have to be like, oh shit, it's happening before my eyes. Like I said, if hope was a person, it will be you. I always said that. If hope was a person, it will be you.
Apparently, Mr. O is not listening to me because I am complaining. I gave specific solution on community development protection. I gave a specific solution on electoral politics. He may not agree with them. I gave a specific solution when it came to land ownership, agriculture, and farming. When on the other show, I said there are 68,000 black agricultural landowners that own 7.7 million acres, which is 0.5% of agricultural land. And I gave you specific instructions on how we should be identifying those 68,000 and figuring out in an emergency crisis response to what's going on, how to divide those 7.7 million acres into plots that can be worked by 30 people or less, that can be instituted and replicated within 1 year's time. I've been speaking specific solutions to very real problems ever since I've been on this show. So for you to say I'm just a complainer shows me that you're not really listening to me.
I'm listening to you, but many of your saying are baseless. And you are very stubborn. You don't listen to what another person has to offer. That is the problem. I'm ignoring you. I'm ignoring you. And I want to tell all of you, all this you are proposing are baseless. Let us be more practical. And I've said it many times, because you are telling me listen, I'm giving you data.
All right.
I'm demonstrating research. I'm giving you numbers. I'm qualifying. How is it that you say that what I'm saying is baseless when I'm giving you all of this very real data?
Because those numbers convinces you. It doesn't convince me.
Okay, it doesn't.
I have the right to believe you or not.
Okay, but
you don't have the right to
believe. Okay. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. Usually I would let this go. Let's calm down.
I have the right to believe or not.
Yeah, but you don't have to name call.
And you don't convince me. You know what I'm saying? You do not convince me.
Okay, all right. Hey, look. All right. Everybody back to your corners. Calm down.
I'm a scientist. I have all these books.
I am a scientist to get them. No,
Hey,
I
hey,
am
hey,
a
look.
scientist.
Hey,
Don't tell me
look.
you're a scientist.
Hey,
I am
I'm
a scientist.
Hey,
okay,
Daniel,
okay.
Daniel. Let intellects collide.
Yeah. Okay, okay. Hey, hold up. First of all,
Philosophical fisticuffs.
I am the applied scientist. I am the
Friday
applied
night philosophical fisticuffs.
okay.
Only on the web network, baby.
I got to mute y'all mics. I got to mute y'all mics. I mute y'all mics. I never thought in this show that I had to. Look here. We're here to come to solutions.
I know it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, but Friday night philosophical fisticuffs. Right. Only on the web network, baby.
Well, only on the web network. I'm actually recording.
It's the heavyweight bout, baby. They going for the belt.
So, like I said, I put everything together. We're all in agreement, but we just going to different avenues. Just because Sleepaway choose, let's say, Rocky Road Avenue to Walmart does not mean that when Mr. O takes Coca-Cola Lane to Walmart, right, that does not make it wrong. So let's stop it with the name calling, because I know when me and Mr. O get into it, we're respectful. Even when me and Sleepaway, when me and him getting out, like we got a disagreement, but we agree. I know we don't do name calling. Even when me and B. Shaw's disagree, I don't do any name calling because I respect everybody's views. I know it's passionate. Jason, you're not making it easy right now while you're sitting there putting boom goes to dynamite. Stop it. Stop it.
Just allow me to retort. Just allow me to retort. Because it's one part of his statement that I want to retort on that nobody else really caught on to. But I'm going to speak on that point. And if you allow me, I'm going to speak on the point of when he speaks about qualification. Because I personally did not go to school or have yet to go to school and achieve the academic title of philanthropist or a psychiatrist or a therapist or a sociologist. Means that my statements and my views and takes on things are invalid. Well, allow me to retort in my Cyrano de Bergerac. Historically speaking and anthropologically speaking, I am fourth generation that we can trace back, but that's to a white name, so we don't know our true name. And that white name was another name, so we don't know our true slave last name. My grandfather took on another name, and that's the name I have now. So anthropology, speaking as anthropology, I come from a tribe of disproportionate and very perverted sense of history. We don't know who we are. Sociologically speaking, I grew up in the South where racism is pretty much textbook. Like when people think of racism, you think of the South. So I come from the buckle of the Bible Belt. No, North Carolina. The buckle of the Bible Belt.
Oh shit!
You got the Bible Belt. We the buckle.
Kentucky.
We the last part you want to get hit in the whooping.
Mm-hmm.
So I come from a land that, when it comes to racism, you deal with it to the point where it's commonplace. You grow up innately knowing that certain vibes you just don't follow, and you grow to learn that if it don't feel right, don't roll with it. And if never get caught, you learn never get caught around white folk. Always have an alibi, no matter what time of the day is. Always make sure somebody saw you. Make sure some camera saw you. Make sure you were somewhere that you could be verified, just in case.
Right.
Psychologically speaking, we're talking about I come from a disproportionate family of psychological trauma, and that has been genetically what the Christians would call a genetic curse that has been played upon my family. So you have that religious explanation and handling of situations compared with the more traditional, structured, logical sense of way of dealing with things. And my family is only textbook compared to all the other families that go through worse or slightly better than what I've gone through. So to say that I myself am not articulate or eloquent enough to speak on these things from not just a personal, but secondary and tertiary experience standpoint does annoy me more than anything else. I don't care about name calling. It ain't what you call, it's what you answer to.
Right.
So I can get over that. But to say that I'm not qualified to speak on not just myself, my plight, but the plight that I know others that I've grown up with, lived with, watched grow up and die, experience, for you to say that I'm not qualified to do that, there, sir, I take offense with.
No, you misinterpreted me.
There, now
I'm
there
saying,
you will hear bitterness. There, I will give you the qualification. Yes, I'm being bitter if you try me on that.
Let me tell you. One thing is your experience, which is understandable. I hear all your experiences because these are results of something planted. And I want those who can really tell me the roots of this problem.
We are telling you the root.
No, you are not saying, that's why I say you are not qualified to tell me the root, because you are a result of what has happened. But
if it's happening where I'm at, if it's happening where he's at, if it's happening where you're at, if it's happening where Brother Balaka is, there's no way you can say that our point's not valid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right.
If there's a root over there and you know it's going, hear me out. You talk about roots. If you know the root is in your area in Argentina, and you know as far as you can survey that route goes from your point in Argentina as far as the Baja Desert of Mexico. And that's as far as you can survey it with your equipment and everything that you have access to. While on the other hand, down there on his end, being on the West Coast, is able to survey it down to not the exact same point, well within relative proximity. So right there off the bat, you two are able to already understand that there is a stronger root connected right there. Now, on the same end where Brother Balaka is at, he can point his down the same consistency down to the proximity, likewise with myself. And if we all are saying that there's nothing else going past that point, and we all send someone to that area, and they all say that there's nothing else going past that point but further down, then what have we discovered, gentlemen? We have now discovered the root. And what we are doing right now, we're all taking our experiences, our point of views, our insights on these matters, and we're getting down to it. And we're all finding the root. So we're discovering the root of the problem that you're trying to allude to. We're discovering it now.
Professor,
but you like everyone else has to be open and receptive to everything that's being said.
You need to know that a lot of our best scholars left the institutions, academic institutions, because they wanted to be scholar activists, and they couldn't do the work that they needed to do by being shackled in the institutions. Don't think that only the people with the established academic credentials are the experts. We have lots of people that have studied our condition, have read more books than the people in those institutions, have more field work experience in the actual communities, and have experienced and learned not only the problems and the solutions. Many of those people aren't going to have the established academic credentials. So you have to be very careful. You take this, elitist mindset where you're looking for the answers to come from a certain class of people. There are many scholar activists, some of them even in prison, are the most astute and most intellectually gifted of
I will attest to that myself personally.
The answers that you're looking for that have never been to an institution, a university or college. Now, I can talk to you about my credentials that will rival yours and anybody else you put me on the panel. I've been to Yale University.
Thank you, Jason.
Philosophy and physics. Good point. I've traveled over 40 countries and lived. I've done graduate work at the African Union, African Development Bank. I've studied sociology, economics, philosophy, physics, history. I'm an award-winning history and genealogist. So don't make the mistake of underrating the men and women in our communities who have dedicated their lives to trying to understand and solve this problem. They may not have some big-time university credentials like I do.
And I think that's the issue right there. It's just if you don't have a plaque on the wall, if you don't have a diploma or a master's, you are not professional in this field. This is not dig at you, Mr. O, but I think that's also a big problem with the community. Not only just education, but also with sports, with anything. It's funny when I was I don't know if y'all agree with him, but I like Roland Martin. But Roland Martin said a good point when he was talking with other Black journalists who stopped using the mainstream media and went on their own. One of the panel members was saying, well, we can't consider ourselves news if we're now in the mainstream. And Roland Martin was like, no, I created my own. I did my own digital network that had 12 million people that watch it, even though his numbers are higher, but I'm just exaggerating the numbers. But he said, I created my own platform. I took my own equipment, even though I think that's a stretch of owning all your equipment, but okay. His own equipment on YouTube. He's on freaking Periscope. He's on freaking Facebook, and he's broadcasting his shows almost every day in a repeat of his shows. And he said that I get just as much viewers, maybe even more, than MSNBC, Fox News, CNN. I say I'm news, and the numbers back it up. I don't need to be on no big platform or have to be on, let's say Cox Cable or anything like that.
Master P.
It's just, right, Master P.
I sold $100,000 out the trunk of my car. What I need your industry money for?
Right, and so I just think sometimes
that's true.
Having that big
I say it too when it comes to music.
Yeah, you don't have to have that big flag or that Super Bowl or that Premier League Cup. And Mr. O, you know what I'm talking about. You know that big soccer Premier League, go Liverpool. In the background to say that I was a great damn player. You know?
You don't need that society validation.
Right. You can go back to your own community that supported you and been like, hey, we knew you were going to be something big. We know that you was going to be something high. When we first saw you with a soccer ball in your hand, with a book in your hand, whatever, we know that you was going to be something. And sometimes you just need to let yourself know that, hey, I don't need nobody else to sit there and millions of people to sit there and say that, hey, I'm the shit. I know I'm the shit. Excuse my language. So, yeah, I totally agree.
We got some scholars and authors that spend like 10 years, 15 years studying something, and they write and they research it. And then they don't have the networking connections to get a contract with Simon & Schuster, to get a publishing deal with Random House. So you know what they do? They self-publish. They've researched something for 10 or 15 years, and then they self-publish. And they put all that research together in a book. And because they don't have the networking and apparatus and the book promotion of a company like Simon & Schuster, and I'm speaking from experience because I've done both. I've had 6-figure book publishing deals, and I've also self-published. What I'm saying is we got a lot of scholars who the only way they can put together all their research and give it to our people, they got to self-publish. So they may not make the New York Times bestseller list. They may not sell, they might only even sell 2,000 books. But they spent 10 or 15 years studying something that they took meticulous research on and have presented it. So they may not get the accolades. They may not have all of the promotion and all of that for them to become recognized experts on a subject, but they probably know more about that subject than any of the so-called recognized experts.
Right, they go on these big mainstream networks and all that stuff. And
we have to just be careful of not subscribing to the white mentality and understand
let me come in.
Understand the condition that we are finding ways to persist regardless of the barriers that are, whether they be educational, financial, institutional, mentoring, regardless of those barriers. You have people that are very passionate that will persist in their studies and research to understand and become an expert on something that will never get the credit that they deserve.
All right, so go ahead, Mr. O. Go on, come on in. Come on in the room.
Look, you all did not understand me. All this accusation you are pointing me that I want to be directed by a white man, that is what you think. I'm now seeing why our community have a problem. You close door to opinions that differ and you give names. I'm not being directed by a white man. I did not say we need a white man. Anyway, all these proposals you are making will not produce a change. This is my opinion. And I don't have to add anything more. Look, all this we're talking, all these studies, all these, they have not produced the change. That we need something new. We cannot be, look, Abad Eban said life must be lived forwards and understood backwards. But you are only looking backwards. Today is a reality, is a different reality in the world. That is why I'm making those proposals. Not that I want the white man to come and solve our problem, but we have to understand us. But
let Mr. O finish. Let Mr. O finish.
All this, your proposal or studies or investigation, for me, it doesn't convince me. They do not convince me because they have not produced a change. Open to a different opinion. That's all I want to say.
Nobody has produced the change. Nobody has the answer. So all we can do is talk about our ideas. Because if any of us had the answer, you would have seen the change. You don't have the change clearly. None of us have the answer. So all we can do is discuss the ideas. You say you want something new. When have you ever seen Black people wholesale boycott the vote in the United States? That's something new. So you say it's not convincing. It's not going to be convincing until we produce. So it's a catch-22. You're saying
I'll give him one. I'll give him one, brother. You talk about Black people coming together, Black people making a movement. When it comes to the COVID vaccine and the vaccine trials, Black people unilaterally in America have made it clear we will not participate in any form or fashion, to the point to where both Bill Gates and his wife have pleaded to the Black community to include themselves in the vaccine trials to ensure the success of the trials. Sounds a lot like Tuskegee to us. And we said, fuck that.
Right.
I'm not
so you talk about, no, sir. You talk about movements. A movement has already been established unbeknownst to the social Black consciousness. We didn't realize that we all just came together on that without thinking. Now, as I speak these words, every Black person that hears it, I want you to preach it forward. That is a movement unto itself. When it comes to this vaccine, we as Black people have said we will not participate. We will not allow ourselves or anyone attached to us to take part and participate. And I can personally tell you from every Black person I've run across, and it's been over at least 100 that I've asked. I'm on my Family Feud. I've asked over 100 Black people, and they've all agreed unanimously they ain't doing it. And they're going to tell everybody they know they ain't going to do it.
And to add on to what Seepway and what Beast Johnson been saying, if we are talking in terms of voting, there's a lot of Black folks right now that are holding on to their votes for both Republicans and Democrats right now. They are literally saying, this police brutality bullshit needs to stop. And it's
I'll take it a step further.
Yeah.
No, I'll take it a step further. When you talk about votes and you talk about super PACs, you talk about your Republicans, there is currently a pack of Republicans against Trump that are urging not only Republican voters, but all voters, progressive, liberal, doesn't matter what your name is, get your ass out there and vote against Trump. Do you know how powerful of a movement and statement that is just alone? That your own peoples got together and said, yo, we need y'all to vote, but we really need y'all to vote this motherfucker out of here. He do not speak for all of us. We can't stand for this no more.
Yeah, because right now, everybody on every spectrum is coming, it's coming together. I mean, it's blowing my mind here because you have the most hardest of rights and the most hardest of left, and even the people in between that are moderate, which I think are destroying America. But that's a different show.
You know what? Dave Chappelle
they are
was right.
all coming together.
Dave Chappelle was right. He said that Trump, like the woman that lied on Emmett Till, was going to be the catalyst to bring America together. It takes somebody it takes a real piece of shit to make somebody you don't like be like, yo, man, we can't fuck with a dude like that. And you look at them like, and you instantly forget you got beef with this person. Like, you're right. We can't fuck with a person like that.
Right. And so
the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the black hat from Mr. O real quick. Let me go ahead and put it on. So I agree to an extent with what Mr. O is also trying to say. Yes, there is a time where we do need to stop complaining. It is. He's not lying about that. He's not lying about that at all. He's not lying about the complaining.
We got to define complaining.
Right, and I agree with you on that, B. Johnson. But on that fact of complaining, you got people that are literally, come on, y'all know that that barbershop talk, you know, everybody got solutions to everything. Like, man, they can go up in there with the problems. And Mr. O, I know you probably went to a barbershop and you know those talks when they sitting there saying, man, I got a problem, my woman, what should I do? And you got that one barber who got the greatest of ideas. Man, if I were you,
I'm gonna tell you what you need to do now.
Right,
I'm gonna tell you what you need to do.
This is what you need to do. You
now,
need to go
ahead. Listen here now.
I mean, the one with the toothpick in his mouth, and the one that got that gold tooth. The one that always got the best of ideas.
It's the old dude sleep. It's the one sleep. I'm gonna tell you what you need to do now. Come in now. Come in now. Now, what's her name? It don't even matter. This is what you need to do. Now listen.
Right. And see, and we all been there before. But yes, the complaining needs to stop, and people need to start taking action, which goes back to what Simple Way was saying. Simple Way is like, look, we need to come up with the freaking code and start defending our community, which goes to what B. Johnson was saying. We do need a Brexit. We do need to be like, hey, we're not going to institutionalize ourselves in this institution that hates us, that despises us, that kills us, and then y'all expect us to keep going on with the roles that you have established for us. So, like I said again, we're all in agreement. Yes.
If we go to origin, right? For example, how many of us work for the white man? Okay. Now,
I'm kind of biracial because I work for a white man and a black one, too.
You own a company. Right. The vast majority of our community is still working for somebody else's system, somebody else's business, and somebody else's dream.
Double time right here.
Why? Is it because you want to? No, it's because you haven't figured out an alternative that can what? Feed, house, and clothe your family. If you
Legal.
can, yeah, legally.
You gotta throw that out there. Legal.
Legally.
Okay?
Yeah, legally.
So you could feed, house, and clothe your family. If you could provide the basic necessities of your family, and that might include in today's day and age, internet, I don't know, whatever. If you could do that, would you still work for white people?
You know what? I'll say this. I'm gonna explain it like this. It's like me walking into a black-owned establishment, a restaurant. That shit hits me here. It does. And I'm like, damn, there should be more of these businesses. So, with my answer to that, hell yeah.
Okay, so the thing that's common amongst all of us here in America is we depend on a foreign people for our food, our housing, and our basic needs. This is the reason why we work for them. We don't know any other alternative. I don't work for the man. How will I what? Pay my mortgage, pay my rent. How will I feed myself? How will I pay the school tuition? So the basic problem is we are dependent. Okay? As a result of that dependency, we resent the fact because we know that the reason why we're dependent is because we were kidnapped, trafficked, and we have suffered genocide. That's the problem. It doesn't take a whole hour to say what the problem is. The problem is we are the victims of genocide. And we haven't figured out how to what? Repair the damage of genocide and be able to feed, house, and clothe ourselves, provide our basic necessities.
But I want to add one. Yeah,
I have the answer. I have the answer for you.
I'm gonna step in.
It goes back. I'm gonna just keep it simple. We need to develop our own vibranium. We need, in order for us to establish that Wakanda-like society and structure within the Black community, we need our own vibranium. Meaning, and go back to saying, we need to develop our own currency or resource here in America as Americans that rivals that.
Listen, I'm going to follow Professor O's suggestion. He doesn't want to hear complaining. He wants to hear his solution. So I'm going to be a realist. We are here. There are approximately 47 million of us that are here that are completely dependent on another people who built a system that was designed specifically to exploit us and not
I agree.
develop us. Okay? So the reality is there's 47 million of us here. You're saying we have to use what we have. Okay?
Oh no. I'm not saying that. I'm literally saying we as Black people need to create something, a resource, an entity, a presence, an energy that rivals the current value of the U.S. dollar.
Agreed.
The ultimate balancing bargaining chip.
Okay.
And we hold that to us and us alone. We establish it, we show how it can be used, and then once we do that, that's what I said, we need our own vibranium to coin the Black Panther and Wakanda term.
In order to create that thing that you're talking about, to create something or to build something, you have to build with real materials. Okay? A wise elder told me, he said, listen, the only thing we can build from is from history. because the present isn't fully formed, so it's not tangible, and the future doesn't exist yet. So your building blocks come from history. So one, you got to know your history. Two, right? Again, production comes from the combination of people and land. So if we're going to, Professor O, we're going to have a serious conversation about solving the problem, right? The problems have existed from the beginning of time, which is, how do I feed myself? How do I provide protection or shelter for myself and for my family? Okay. Now, for those of us that are the descendants of people that were kidnapped, trafficked, and enslaved in America, which is not you, Professor O. But for those of us who are the descendants of that experience, we were robbed from our natural environment. So we are living in an unnatural environment. It is not natural for us to have white people as an authority over us, that we must be dependent on them. That is not natural to us. So the reality is we're not reconnected with the land yet from which we were taken from. We're on this land. And on this land, right, if we want to eat, we have to go to somebody else. We are dependent. So the first problem we got to solve is the land problem. We have to have some land so that we can what? Do the Chinese rely on the Germans to eat? No, the Chinese have their land, their territory, and they grow their own food. I know because I lived in China. Okay? The Americans, they grow their own food for the most part. Yes, they import other stuff, but they grow their own food. Okay? So the first problem, Professor O, if we're going to be serious, the first problem is we got to solve the land problem. Now, the land problem is this. Not that we have to get land that we don't already have. We have 7.7 million acres of land. So when you say I'm not convincing, I'm like, okay, but I'm starting with actual real facts on the ground. We have 7.7 million acres of land that our people already own. But what are we doing with it? What is the capacity of that land to feed the 47 million people that we have that are trapped here? We don't have to ask nobody's permission to utilize and access these 7.7 million of acres that are owned by 68,000 of us. But as of yet, nobody is listening to me, the leader, right, elected by myself, who is saying, look, we don't have to fight for this land. We don't have to beg nobody for it. It's already ours. How are we utilizing it? How can we figure out the capacity of this land to at least feed our people? Because we ask the question, none of us will work for white people if we could provide for ourselves. So it's not going to be an easy solution that is going to be implemented next year and is going to solve all the problems. It's going to take change. It's going to take a long time. But if we're not clear on the direction we got to go, which is, okay, in the 5 states of the Black Belt Territory, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, South Carolina, right? We're already the majority population, or that's where the majority of our people live. We've already been working that land for over 250 years. How do we get full control of that land base so that what? We can grow food, people that don't live in those areas can migrate into it, and we can use that as a what? A basis of creative production, like what Beast is talking about. One of the things, we're going to need help doing that. The United States government is not going to help us to do that. So we need other governments to help us with that. How do we get that support? Well, one, we got to signal to them that we're ready for national independence. We can't do that if we keep voting and saying, okay, we willingly, voluntarily submit to this government. If we don't show them that we no longer recognize the current United States government and we need help in establishing a government that controls the territory where we are already at, then we're not talking about anything other than continued dependence for the next 5 years, 50 years, 500 years.
Okay.
Some
To
generations
answer that,
have to make the sacrifice. No, we're not going to have the full answer. But those of us that have already studied international law and have degrees in international law and have degrees in studying the genocide against our people and the 20-some petitions that have already documented the genocide against our people and why we are dysfunctional, why we're having such a hard time seeing the solution, why we are having such a hard time forming a unity. That's not because there's some inept inferiority or incapacity in us. It is the result of the systematic what? Genocide, which the definition of its one part of it is what? To destroy in whole or in part a people. Never since we've been here have we been given any opportunity to develop naturally. So if we keep appealing to the moral conscience of the people who created this system that unnaturally dehumanizes us, like Malcolm said, you can't expect a chicken to lay a duck egg because the chicken system is not designed to produce duck eggs.
Okay, go ahead. I'm
trying to solve our dependency problem.
Okay.
And if we don't have real conversations on what it's going to take to get us to not be dependent, and it starts with land and food.
Okay.
That's not me complaining. That's me being serious about helping my people.
All right. Go ahead, Beast Josh, you had something to add real quick.
Yeah. I agree with him when it comes to the land and production. It is one of the fastest. I will say this is a war. This is a war of attrition. And this is a war that must be fought on all fronts, simultaneously, continuously. Even fronts that you wouldn't think would be fronts. You got to have your recon working over here you got to have them over on the west side while you got your infantry moving in from the east, while you got your demo setting in from the north, while you got your infantry, another infantry coming in from the south by southwest. At the same, and then shift them around however you want to do your war tactics. You need to attack from all fronts to ensure total victory. So I'm gonna paint a picture when we talk about what we need to do. Yes, we need resources like land. Now, in this new day and age with land being scarce, it is viable. It is very tantamount of what we need, but we also need to have something else to go along with it. Something that would, I'll say the word resource, because if you to discover or find a way to function a resource into mainstream life, you need land in order to bring that function to physical fruition. So I always go back to a resource. Like they said, with the resource of discovering vibranium, they had the leverage to say, hey, we need equipment to dig it up. We need equipment to utilize how to use it. And once they figured all that out, they was able to leverage that with all the other worlds. To say these are some of the things that you can do. Only giving them like that much. Just giving them like a little free sample you get at Costco. Yeah, like, that's what we can do. Like that's what it tastes like. That's what the real deal tastes like. Yeah, not giving them the whole deal. So while we're establishing that land right now, because that's an immediate thing that we can actually do legally, we have Donnell and individuals like him setting up a true Black Lives Matter super PAC, correlating with intellectuals like Professor O, who are actually here looking for a true undeniable logical course of action, along with individuals like yourself correlating with establishing whatever viable sources we have right now that we can legally obtain and we are legally entitled to. When you have movements going on like this, you have individuals like myself over here that are kind of like the wild card. We're over here just kind of like doing what we need to do and kind of coming up with stuff. And you have also individuals like myself that find ways to take these new discoveries and apply them to what you all need. Right. And when you have individuals that's willing to invest that into something that's already been established from what we're discussing now, moving forward in your 5-10 years that we may have to deal with some more bullshit, we have that individual, we have that entity coming up with that resource. And we already have the established super PAC with the established leaders, with the established land to bring this resource to our community's financial fruition. And then we truly have that Wakanda that Teach speaks of and that we want. That's the plan of action that you speak of, Professor O. That's a plan of long-term war that we have to engage ourselves in and remind ourselves in. This is not just a fight this is not just a middle school, high school fight. I'm only going to have to deal with them for X amount of years or X amount of moments. No, this is a true real life war. This war may end in 1 month. It may end in 100 years. It may end in 12 centuries.
All right.
But we got to know that the long game is ahead, and we got to plan for the long game in order to cut that time down.
Right. But it's not a war. It's not a war beast. It's a genocide. A war is between two combatants. We're not fighting. What we're suffering is
we're choosing not to fight. We're choosing. We're choosing not to fight, which is making it a genocide, and I will agree with you on that. But this is a war nonetheless.
What we're suffering is not war, it's genocide. Now, if I could, Tammy asked a great question. She said, how do we get the land? Okay, so I want to answer Tammy's question. There's two parts to that. First of all, there's land that we don't have to get because, like I said, we have 68,000 members of our community that own 7.7 million acres already. So that land we don't have to get, we already have it. The rest of that territory where we were brought and where we worked, most of our experience in America was on this land. It stretches from Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, South Carolina. I'm missing one. It's 5 states, right? The answer to your question, Tammy, how do we get the land? Again, you have to go back to history to get the answer. Like I said in the beginning, ask yourself, how did the American colonists get their land? Remember, prior to the American Revolution, you had white settlers who were subjects of the British Crown. The authority, the government that controlled the 13 colonies was the British government. The people living on that land were subjects of the British government. How did these subjects of the British government get control of that land? It started with a riot against police brutality in the Battle of Golden Hill in January of 1770. Right? There was a conflict between the British police and the people that lived in that community. 3,000 of them got into an altercation with these British police. They tore down a statue of George III. Tore down statues just like we're tearing down Confederate statues. As a result of that, a movement was born called the Sons of Liberty. These were the rioters. This was the Black Lives Movement of the 1770s. When it wasn't black people, it was white people. These rioters that were considered factious disturbers of the peace, rebellious against the lawful authority, started to burn property. And once they started destroying property, the British police, the lawful authority, the lawful government started to punish them. And they resisted. And they fought 61 battles. Basically, these rioters, these American settlers of the 13 original colonies, destroyed enough property and took enough British lives that the British government said it is not worth it anymore. The cost of trying to control these people and maintain control over this territory is too much. The lesser of two evils is to sign this treaty and give up the territories.
AKA,
That's how the United States of America got the land from the British government and got their own independence. So we must learn from history. The answer to your question, Tammy, is when we destroy enough of their property and take enough of their lives that they calculate it is no longer in their interest to try to maintain control, then they will sign a treaty and give up the territory, just like the British government.
AKA, does that sound familiar? What's going on right now? But to tie in to what everybody was saying, I had to throw in my damn head. Teach was with the ownership with resources and all that stuff. She was spit some fire. I don't know if y'all been watching the comments, so I just put the comments up here for y'all because we are in the tail end of the show. First of all, like always, we are looking at the goal. We are looking at the end game. Like in war, you got different type of generals. I'm like the most famous you ever heard is General Patton. General Patton was that type of general that's like, look, I'm not going to be sitting here with the rear and the gear. I'm going to be there with my soldiers. So all I'm hearing is different military type of strategy. So we are already in. I'm thinking it from a military standpoint. So we're in the firefight. We're 4 different type of soldiers right now. We're in the firefight and we getting shot at all angles. You got the one soldier that's like, let's go in, let's go ahead, let's give them all we got. Then you got that one soldier that's saying, look, we got to have a plan. We got to get enough troops to go ahead and flank while we cover fire. And then you got the other one that's just saying, look, let's all think it's a collective whole before we go up in here and blow our heads off and all that stuff. Let's state with a clear mind. Let's know what we're doing, you know? So, like I said, all of what we're saying, this also goes to the audience too as well. All of what everybody's saying on the show is not wrong. It's all coming together. We are agreeing. We are all in agreement.
Tactically speaking, I feel like this is the end game. This is the last stand.
Yes.
This is the final battle of the war. The battle that's really going to determine if there's a war after this. Because you see an increase of it on all fronts, not just with men, with women and children. You're seeing it more. So they're showing their hand that they really ain't got much left. And if they don't make this last little push and kind of snuff it out for good, then they don't have, that's it. Like, I feel like tactically speaking, this is the last bit of their viable, credible soldiers. And if they don't get past this one, they're done.
But to go back to what Seaway was saying about land and resources here in the States and saying that we need to stop being dependent on the dominant society, we have to remember if Black folks don't have a hand on it, it don't mean nothing. We're still the biggest influencers of shoes, the NBA sports, of clothes. Look at all the inventions that we have here.
allow me to play devil's advocate with that to correlate with what Squeezeway was saying. We don't need to until we can get to the point of true self-reliance. We take that influence and we pull what the white kids are doing on social media, and we become brand influencers. If we don't buy it, and we all agree as black people say, if we don't buy it, if we don't support it, it ain't gonna make no money.
Right, and that's
actually get to the point of where these companies are putting money into our communities just to ensure that we'll at least buy their items or their services once.
Beast, if what you said is true about this being the last battle in the war and stuff like that, why are they still playing basketball?
And see, and that's what's going to lead to, that's what's leading to my point, which goes back to what I was thinking the whole entire time. When we see our power, when we see that everything that we do has an influence, not only here in the States, but the world, that's when dominant society starts to be afraid. When they're like, oh, shit.
Why are they still playing basketball? Why are they saying we're gonna refuse to put?
I mean, I agree with you too.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Steve Way. But you see what is going on here with what Teach said earlier about change. Like what's going on in the NBA right now, where now NBA is like, oh, well, actually, they're the first sport that recognized, like, yo, we got some serious shit going on.
Like, I honestly, the only reason they're honestly, the only reason they're playing is to showcase and promote the agenda of Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And use it as an excuse to get them out there because they allow them to have that on the back of their jersey.
What I'm saying is, if the NBA is a casino and the casino wins, and the casino only wins if you agree to play, why are black people still agreeing to finance the freaking casino of the NBA?
Because you got black folk that lucked around and got a decent. If the jackpot house is $12 billion, you got black folk that fucked around and got 2,500.
NBA?
Because like I said, because you got players that got 2 million. You got players that got 5 million out the house. You got players that fucked around that got 12 million out the house. You heard about one dude that got 21 million at the house. So it's like
in the time of slavery, they used to say burn the cotton. Burn the cotton.
Oh yeah, burn the cotton.
Yeah. So what I'm saying
burn all
is
that shit.
NBA players can burn the NBA not by being violent, by just simply refusing to play. The NBA will make no money if there's no black people playing it.
True. But to use your analogy of why they're not burning the cotton?
Tomorrow.
The reason why they're not burning the cotton, because you got slaves out there that thinking, well, how am I gonna make me a shirt to keep myself warm?
Right.
That's why that's why the NBA is still playing. Because they got slaves out there that they need the cotton more than the white man.
Right. And C-Way, and I agree with you 100. Like I said, I agree with everybody.
I agree with you too, man.
And I agree with them. I agree with you. So that's why, once again, we got a platform like this so we can push that and talk about it, because they only talk about a smidgen of this. But I understand that now they're pushing that, which goes to your point, Sipwe, about why they're still playing. They did boycott it for a little bit. But then again, think about on the NBA. Put yourself in the NBA's nice little shiny little shoes. If we do not start seeing what's been going on in their communities, because majorities of these players have not had the best upbringing, definitely in the communities that they're in. We
going
got to
Speedway's point. You should be the main ones not there playing. You come from areas where they shit go.
Right.
You know somebody that died like that.
Right.
You should be the first one like fuck this shit.
If you actually look at it in a, I would say if we actually look at the progress, the little slow, little steady, little progress, NBA is taking a knee on this. Not on, it's a bending knee. I mean, it's they're on the bending knee. They're now on their knees saying, please don't boycott and not play. You know,
it ain't fully bent. It's like
it's there. I mean, one of their knees is on the freaking court
because it pays. Look, again, it's the count, and I think Professor O, I think you will agree with me on this. I think this is somewhere we can agree, right? The NBA has calculated that they can't continue to profit unless they play. And so if the only way we can get them to play is by what? Conceding, okay, we'll let you kneel now. We'll do these Black Lives Matter protests.
That's how I look at it.
You see what I'm saying? Again, it's the lesser of two evils. So again, when we right, make it so that it costs too much to continue business as usual, that's how we obtain our demands. Now, Professor O, would you agree with me that they should just stop playing in the NBA as a way to just burn the freaking cotton? Like, hit them in their pocket boots where it hurts? Can you agree with me on that?
No.
We all agree on that. Oh, what?
Okay, agree with me on that?
That's not the way. Look, it depends on them. I cannot tell them what they should do.
No. We're asking, do you agree with the concept and the idea?
No.
Whether or not they agree with it or not is a moot point at this point. Do you agree with that logic?
No.
I'm gonna ask for Mr. O. Mr. O, I got you, Mr. O. I got you. If Mr. O was running the NBA right now, he probably will fire them all. I'm just gonna be clear. He like, look here, damn it. Okay, y'all go do that.
I wish I had some pearls around my neck so I could clutch them. Like, that's how shocked and appalled I am. Like,
when you burn it down, where will you go?
How helping the people that are
don't matter. Excuse me.
Convince me, Professor O, how helping these people is in our best interest.
A mouth cannot say it doesn't want the head. And the eye cannot say it doesn't want the finger. They are one body. And really, for those people who make money, I can't say anything because I cannot, if I say anything, they say, look, that poor person, he doesn't have anything to eat. Let him go and learn to make money. So it's an institution. They know what they're doing. And they know how they can get into our heart. It's all show. They're not sincere. I don't trust them. They're not sincere.
AKA, like I said, I'm answering for Mr. O. He will fire them all. Be like, if y'all gonna sit there, go kneel, guess what? I'm gonna get some more new players. Just saying. Just saying. If you
want to kneel, you can kneel over your final paycheck. Goodbye.
Hold on, Professor Odsir, I'm genuinely asking, right? You do realize that the biggest beneficiary of the NBA are the white owners, right? Right?
No, I said people and persons are different. We cannot here theorize on what they should do. I mean, we may discuss what they are doing, but we cannot theorize what they should do.
Okay, so we're discussing.
If you truly feel that way, then what we doing here? What we been talking for?
All right. That's where I go ahead and draw a line. That's going. I think that's a good topic. I think that will be a good topic for our next show. I think that's a very good topic that we just hit on right there. So we're not going to get too deep into it. I feel for this show, I think we made progress. even though we had to yell and scratch and claw and all that stuff to it. But this was a dialogue that was needed. I'd like to thank everybody for participating, including the people that was also writing in on the show. Also, speaking of writing in on the show, please let your friends know about the show. Yeah, please let your friends know about the show.
And I also encourage every fan, because I found out that like my girlfriend, her whole family watches the show. So I encourage that any and everyone that watches the show, just chime in. If not more than just a little emoji of the hand waving. No, just if you agree with something, if you don't agree with something, if you got a question, bring it to us. If you want to know more, or if you were confused as we are sometimes amongst ourselves, individually and amongst this group, because I know I'm confused myself sometimes. But pose a question.
Right.
Pop it up there. Let us know you watch it.
Right.
Let us know how you feel. We doing this for you. We want to hear what you got to say.
Right. We just giving our views. Like I said, we may not all agree, but for some funny, strange reason, there has not been one show. This is just me. One show where we all haven't agreed. That's just me. Just think about it. Like I said, just because I use Moore's Road to get to Walmart doesn't mean that what Seepway, if he keeps using Beast Johnson Lane to go to Walmart, does not make him wrong or makes me wrong. We all see the promised land, as they would say, or have our eye on the prize. We just got different ways to it. So we always keep that in mind without reminding each other. And that's the crazy thing about it. But other than that, we're going to go to our final thoughts. Seepway, you will lead us in.
So my final thought, first of all, I want to say this is the most fun I've had all day. I enjoy doing the show. My final thought again is this, right? History provides us with problems and lessons that will lead us to the solution. And when we study history, we will see what has been done, what worked, and what didn't work. The most important thing for Black people in America to understand is that history shows us that land has always been central to the solution to our problem in America. If we're not figuring out how to utilize the land that we have, how to gain control of the land where we live, and how to use politics to force the United States government to recognize our control of land so that we can become independent. If we're not having that discussion, then we are following paths that have already been tried, that have brought us to our current state of dependence. There are many, many, many books and articles and information on the internet about our attempts to build militias and acquire land, whether it's the Revolutionary Action Movement, the Republic of New Africa, the Black Liberation Army. And I would recommend that all of us go back and study those documents, study those theories, and pull from them the analysis that will help us evolve. That's my final thought.
There is no doubt we black people, we have problem all over the world. We have problem in the Americas, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe. We have problems everywhere. Everywhere we are looked down upon. Even people who are not worth to clean our shoes, they despise us. And I see it as somebody who lives in South America, where I know there is a lot of poverty. Something is wrong with us. We must look inwards until we find out why we continue to be a mockery of others that are not worth cleaning our shoes. I hope as we continue with the program, we begin to find way out to speak to our community. That is my final thought.
Well, Beast Johnson, you're gonna be the one taking this home, so I just decided to go ahead and jump on in. Ladies and gentlemen, when we have dialogues, there are going to be times where you get loud with each other. It's just like a family. There's times when mommy and daddy are going to get loud with each other, but guess what? They're always going to have each other's backs. Even when we don't support them or agree with what their decision is, we still stand by them. But then we have that professionalism and we have that respect for one another, to go and talk about it behind closed doors. This is what this show is all about. What you see, I'm not trying to disregard all the past shows we had, but I think this show right here shows what this show is all about. I've seen other shows that has this type of platform that talks these things, but it's just screaming matches. It's my credentials is better than yours, or you're not boots on ground here and all that stuff. Do you hear those same arguments on here? Yes, you do. But guess what? We get to the solutions. There's a difference between having people on the shows yelling at each other just because they're conservative or they are Pan-Africans or they've been in the music game, or people who barely were in the music game going at each other and just downgrading each other. Is this a clash of ideas? In a way. But what I see, and hopefully that y'all see, that we are playing different instruments, but we're on the same sheet of music. And I know Mr. O, he probably gonna be laughing like that, but but still. And but we're not yelling at each other just because we don't like them, or that your freaking idea is so way off base that why the hell are you on this show? No. This is where the climate has put us in. And we're here to get to the root of the issue. Unfortunately, Mr. O haven't seen it yet, but he's going to get there. But we know Mr. O is going to be Mr. O. Seepaway, he don't believe in voting, but right now we just can't sit at home and don't vote. But Seepaway do have a solid plan. I give him credit for that. But still, with all that being said, we all in agreement. Just don't get confused with the yelling and the over talking. We all have our eyes on the prize. We just in different cars, going different ways to it. And when we get there, when we achieve our goals, when we get that land that Superway was talking about, when we get to the point where we can stop complaining what Mr. O is saying, where we get the government that actually love us and get the laws and policies that support us rather than kill us, like Peace Johnson is saying, and then also working within the diaspora and reaching out to the resources of Africa, like Anita Joe, aka Teach, is talking about, we will all sit back and we're going to sit there and laugh and enjoy the fruits of our labor. And maybe one day, Sleepaway and Mr. O going to be sitting back and be like, damn, Mr. O, you remember that time when you said that you didn't understand the root of the problems and all that stuff? And Mr. O going to be like, that doesn't matter now because I'm sitting out here and I'm enjoying my wine. And Beach Johnson going to be back there playing his bass guitar and being like just jamming. And you know, Teach, she going to be jamming in her nice African attire. And then myself, I'm just going to be that one in my nice custom-made suit and tie in the sand with no shoes or socks on, just being like, damn, this is a beautiful damn sight. And that right there, that's my Wakanda. Beach Johnson, take us on.
Kind of get back on my Cyrano and elaborate more on what he said. And as we move forward, and we got to understand that problems like this are mathematical, meaning that if you were to write down 1 through 100, and then next to each number, write out how many different ways it was mathematically, just through the means of addition, to come by way of getting to that number. By the time you get to 50, you're going to have at least half a dozen different ways just to get to the number 50. Meaning that the more complex the number, the more complex the problem, the more varied and alternate ways you can come about getting to the solution. Unlike math, real life situations don't have just those set finite rules. So in those cases, we must add all those varied ways to come upon the number 50 and add them together to solve the problem of 50. 50 in this case being police brutality. So mathematically speaking, let's keep a open mind to more alternate, complex routes to get to this even more complex problem. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Thank y'all for viewing. Check out the Web Network. Y'all have a good one.
Well, see, oh, I'm sorry. Let me go take way off real quick.
1 second.
I'm sorry. I ain't mean to keep Coach slipping, but that we're out Friday. I'm gonna be doing the show on Friday, so y'all know what I'm gonna ask: is everybody going to be able to come on so we can talk? Yeah, so we can talk about the sports and entertainment part about this because I really want to deep dive on that.
On this Friday, from Friday to the end of November, I lecture on Friday night. But on Monday, Wednesday, I will be here. And any Friday that I'm able to escape, I will tune in.
Okay, well, I will play the role of Mr. O, the hopeful Stephen A. Smith contrarian.
Oh no! I want to be I'm the one that came up with the oh hell no! I was the one that first came up with the devil's advocate. Not going to take that away from me. No.
Okay, Uncle Bert. I started this barbecue business. This is the motherfucking thing I get.
Heck no, I'm going to do it. But Mr. O, once again, so Mondays and Fridays.
Since you are so passionate, I
Monday
acquiesce.
and Wednesday. It's going. I confirm my
I
presence.
So hopefully by hopefully next week we could go back to you doing your trips to Africa with you on Monday next week. So
Yes.
Yeah, we do it, but we cannot ignore current events. So
yeah,
We will not.
we pray for long life. There's time for us to be able to connect with Africa, but we cannot ignore current events. So if current event comes up, we deal with it. No.
I pray for a self-awakening.
yeah. And then also a shout out to Cheddar Boy Popcorn once again. We can have Mr. Jones. I'm gonna reach out to Mr. Jones, see if he'll be able to come on.
I'm waiting to come back on.
Yeah, in the place of Mr. O. Sleepaway, I know you're gonna be here, dog. I think he got his mic on mute. So.
Hey, if there are any fans that would like to hop on Friday,
yes,
hey, we could do during that. We could do fan appreciation. So if any fans that are available on Friday evenings,
let us know.
And you would like to hop on, let us know.
Yeah. And we also, I miss Dan. Hopefully, Dan, he'd been watching, tuning in, and all that stuff. I miss having him on. So if you hear us, Dan, if you're watching live or recorded, bring your tail back. We miss you. But other than that, we will see y'all on Friday. As for Mr. O, Sleepaway, Beast Johnson, and then your host, Donnell Monte Morris. Thank y'all for tuning in to another great show. Hashtag Fade to Black. Once again, we like to thank our sponsor, Cheddar Boy Popcorn, that's locally up here in Seattle. Once again, realcheddarboypopcorn.com. Check it out. They got a brand new flavor out. I believe I think it's apple pie, I believe. A new flavor. I'm gonna have to try that out. So
I'm gonna check that out right there.
Yeah, so once again, check out our sponsor, realcheddarboypopcorn.com. And don't forget to also support the show. I'm gonna show that commercial of us heading on out. But thank y'all once again for tuning in. Once again, thank you to my panel. Been a great discussion. But we are outro. Catch y'all later. Bye. If I could get the here we go. Bye.